The Shelby Aon Von Holt case involves a tragic crime surrounding a vibrant young woman. Born on September 7, 2000, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Shelby was the second child in her family, which included her mother, Sha Hartman, her father, Von Holt, her older sister, Peyton Hartman, and her younger siblings, Devin and Isaac Von Holt. After graduating from Troy Center High School in 2018, Shelby spent the next 2 years working at a steakhouse and various other jobs while considering her future career, showing a particular interest in the therapeutic field, although she had not yet determined her specific focus. Shelby was known for her joyful demeanor, often being the center of attention at social gatherings. She enjoyed dancing, singing, and spending quality time with friends. Interestingly, she lived independently, although the reasons for this arrangement remain unclear. While not very active on most social media platforms, her Facebook presence was significant, where she frequently shared cheerful photos, many featuring her young niece, Camila, the daughter of her sister Peyton. According to her mother, Shelby connected with another young woman named Valerie Rose Hardick through Facebook. Although Valerie, at 22, was slightly older than Shelby, the two reportedly did not share a close bond. Limited information is available about Valerie's background, but it has been suggested that she experienced a troubled childhood, had questionable associations, and possibly faced mental health challenges. On June 20, 2021, at 6:48 p.m., a significant event occurred that would alter the course of Shelby's life. A 911 dispatcher received a call from a distressed woman who managed to communicate that she had sustained injuries and indicated that Valerie was responsible for her shooting. It remains unclear whether she provided her address or if the police were able to trace the call. However, shortly thereafter, officers from the Fort Wayne Police Department arrived at the residence of the victim, Shelby. Upon their arrival, the officers forced entry into the home and discovered Shelby barely conscious, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds and surrounded by a significant amount of blood. While one officer remained with Shelby, the others conducted a protective sweep of the residence to ensure that no additional victims were present and to ascertain whether the assailant or assailants were still inside. As they awaited the arrival of an ambulance and local firefighters, the officers attempted to administer first aid. A sergeant inquired if Shelby knew who had shot her, to which she identified Valerie as the attacker. Shortly thereafter, emergency medical personnel took over her care, transporting her to a nearby hospital where she remained conscious but in critical condition. Meanwhile, Shelby's family was notified of the incident, and officers from the Fort Wayne Police Department began collecting potential evidence from her home. A significant piece of evidence was a doorbell camera, and an immediate review of its footage led to the identification of a person of interest, although specific details were not disclosed at that time. A public appeal was subsequently made, urging anyone with relevant information regarding the case to contact the police department or to provide details anonymously through Crime Stoppers. A day after Shelby sustained critical injuries, an unsettling event unfolded approximately 50 kilometers away in Ohio. At around 10:30 in the morning, the local police department received multiple reports regarding a suspicious young woman loitering near a convenience store located at a gas station. Witnesses indicated that she had been wandering inside the store and around the gas pumps for about an hour, seemingly attempting to observe the credit card numbers of customers making purchases. Additionally, the police department had already received a report from a man who claimed that the same woman had pointed a firearm at his back shortly thereafter. Upon receiving this information, police officers arrived at the gas station, where the woman was still present, and successfully apprehended her without any violent confrontation. The individual was identified as 22-year-old Valerie Rose Hardick, who was found in possession of a 9mm handgun. Reports indicated that this weapon matched the one used in the assault on Shelby. Notably, the name Valerie was mentioned by Shelby when she identified her assailant. To further corroborate the suspicions, Valerie's vehicle was the same one captured by Shelby's doorbell camera, seen departing the scene just moments before the injured young woman's emergency call. Despite the ongoing investigation, Valerie was booked and transferred to the county correctional facility, where she awaited her arraignment in the local municipal court. Meanwhile, Shelby fought for her life, having sustained severe injuries from 89mm bullet wounds to her chest and abdomen, with doctors working diligently to stabilize her condition. Following a brutal attack on June 22, 2021, Shelby was placed in an induced coma as medical professionals endeavored to save her life. Unfortunately, 3 days later, she succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced dead, as reported by the media. Shelby's mother revealed that her daughter had undergone 4 complex abdominal surgeries, which ultimately did not yield the desired results. During her treatment, Shelby received 20 blood transfusions, but the medical outlook remained bleak. Had she survived, doctors indicated that amputation of her legs would have been necessary. The circumstances surrounding the murder raise questions about the motivations of a 22-year-old woman committing such a violent act against another. According to the limited information available, jealousy was cited as the primary motive by investigators. It was alleged that Shelby was involved with a young man to whom Valerie had a significant attachment, although his identity was not disclosed. Valerie was charged with criminal assault and aggravated threats, having been detained in Ohio, where she was set bail at $100,000 for threatening a man with a firearm at a gas station. Following the initial legal proceedings in Ohio, Valerie was transferred to Allen County to face charges related to Shelby's murder. On June 29, 2021, a private ceremony was held to memorialize Shelby Von Holt's remains at a funeral home, after which she was cremated. As the judicial process progressed in early 2022, Valerie Rose Hardick entered into a plea agreement, pleading guilty to Shelby's murder while citing mental illness as a defense. As part of this agreement, the prosecution agreed to drop an aggravating charge concerning the use of a firearm. During the commission of the crime, which could have resulted in an additional 20 years to her sentence, Valerie pleaded guilty, leaving the sentencing hearing as the final step. This hearing occurred in September 2022 at the Superior Court of Allen County. As agreed, Valerie entered a plea of guilty but mentally ill. During the proceedings, her defense attorney attempted to present mitigating factors, detailing Valerie's difficult upbringing, which included the death of her stepmother, abuse from a stepbrother, and a history of mental health challenges. In contrast, the prosecution underscored the trivial motive of jealousy that prompted Valerie to take Shelby's life, while also emphasizing Valerie's escalating criminal history. They noted that at the time of Shelby's murder, Valerie was on probation as part of an alternative program due to prior charges. Throughout the hearing, Valerie exhibited erratic behavior. At times, she appeared coherent and aware, while at other moments, she seemed nervous, distracted, and even smiled at Shelby's family. Nevertheless, she responded accurately to the court's inquiries. Media reports did not specify her statements during the opportunity to speak, but they did indicate that she did not express remorse or offer an apology to Shelby's family. In contrast, Shelby's parents articulated their profound grief during their victim impact statements. Shelby's father reminisced about his daughter's affection for significant symbols, such as peace signs, and noted that she was in the process of discovering her path in life at the time of her murder. Toby reflected on Valerie's demeanor during her guilty plea, noting that her voice alone conveyed a profound absence of remorse. The grief-stricken father asserted that by admitting to the intentional killing of Shelby, Valerie seemed to wear her crime as a badge of honor, which clearly indicated her lack of regret. Furthermore, Toby remarked that while jealousy was presented as Valerie's motive for the murder, he believed there must be additional, undisclosed factors at play. He referenced the defense's claims regarding Valerie's mental illness, emphasizing that many individuals with mental health issues are incarcerated. Toby vowed to persist in seeking answers about the circumstances surrounding this tragedy. In a poignant reflection, he highlighted 2 tragedies in this case: the devastating and shocking loss of his daughter and Valerie's decision to abandon her future out of rage. He noted that Valerie's children would endure significant suffering, revealing that at the age of 22, she already had at least 2 children, although no further information about them was disclosed. The grieving father articulated that the tragedy would not conclude at the graveyard or in the courtroom, asserting that true justice could never be achieved in such circumstances. Nevertheless, he shared that he had forgiven Valerie in order to find peace within himself, feeling guided by his faith in Christ in making this decision. He expressed confidence that Shelby was with God and reiterated his profound love for her. Cheyenne, Shelby's mother, also conveyed her feelings, reminiscing fondly about her daughter. From the moment of her birth, Shelby was regarded as a princess, characterized by her kind spirit and unwavering willingness to assist friends, regardless of the distance. Cheyenne dedicated herself to attending every potential appeal hearing that Valerie's defense might pursue in the future. She shared the anguish of recalling her daughter's lifeless form and the profound helplessness she experienced in her inability to protect her. In those harrowing moments, all she could do was rest her head on Shelby's chest while her daughter lay in a medically induced coma. Cheyenne publicly recognized her daughter's bravery, noting that Shelby had been named assailant twice and had fought valiantly for her life following the attack. Cheyenne recounted the extent of Shelby's injuries, explaining that her heart was racing at such an alarming rate that her body could not endure it. She stated that she did not seek compensation for her daughter's medical bills, which totaled nearly $500,000, as these were waived upon Shelby's passing. The funeral expenses amounted to approximately $115,000. However, Cheyenne expressed her belief that she would never receive any compensation and that she did not desire any financial restitution from Valerie. With tears welling in her eyes, Shelby's mother conveyed that memories were all she had left, expressing a wish to trade places with her daughter. She noted that there were days when the weight of her grief was so overwhelming that she found it difficult to rise from bed. Following the presentations by the legal representatives and the statements from the victim's family, the court awaited the judge's verdict. Under Indiana law, the sentence could range from a minimum of 45 years to a maximum of 65 years, with the average sentence being considered. At the age of 55, Valerie's defense team requested the minimum sentence, citing several mitigating circumstances, while the prosecution argued for the maximum penalty. Prior to delivering his ruling, the judge remarked that it was clear the murder had been premeditated and that Valerie was fully cognizant of her actions, a fact underscored by her subsequent flight to Ohio. The judge recognized that Valerie may have experienced a difficult upbringing, characterized by insufficient education, personal traumas, and mental health challenges. However, he stressed that her escalating criminal record at the time of Shelby's murder was significant. At that point, Valerie was already contending with pending charges for another offense. Given her history of unsuccessful rehabilitation efforts and her criminal background, the judge concluded that her trauma could not serve as a legitimate justification for her actions. Taking all these factors into account, the judge imposed the maximum sentence of 65 years in prison on the 23-year-old Valerie and ordered the destruction of the weapon used in the murder. According to records from the American correctional systems, Valerie is currently incarcerated at the Indiana Women's Prison, with her earliest possible release date projected for June 18, 2027, at which time she will be 72 years old. Following the court proceedings, Shelby's parents expressed their satisfaction with the verdict. However, they later clarified that no ruling could ease their suffering. While Valerie would be serving her time in prison, Shelby's mother poignantly noted that she would always miss and remember her daughter. Notably, this case stands out as one of the rare instances where a deceased victim was able to identify her assailant, a point elaborated upon by a prosecutor who was not directly involved in the case. A participant in this case clarified that when a victim on the verge of death identifies their assailant, such statements are referred to as dying declarations. These declarations not only serve as an initial lead for investigators but also represent a significant exception to the general rule in court proceedings, which seeks to guarantee the presentation of the most credible evidence. He emphasized that dying declarations are permissible in court, as they often yield more reliable statements due to the intense pressure and tragic context in which they are made. This concludes today's case review. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments, as we truly appreciate your perspectives on these matters.